Now we're going to be taking a look at grouping objects and booleans, which are some more tools that we have available for editing our objects to make other types of objects and create different types of shapes, and of course also combine objects together so they're manipulated in one solid form. So we'll go ahead and just load in a couple of simple objects into our scene. Go ahead and zoom out of our camera. And we're going to add another sphere. And now we're going to select both these spheres together, and then of course group them, which we can do by using the group tool. We're just going to go ahead and click on that, and now we have one group of objects. So if we have a more complex model, we can combine it all into one object that we can manipulate as a whole. So we can create multiple groups of objects if we need to, and then of course we can always ungroup them as well, which we can do by going over to the left and selecting Ungroup Object. So now we have those two spheres back individual. Now let's take a look at some of the Boolean options we have available to manipulate these objects. Let's say I wanted to cut out a small portion of the sphere over here, and what I can do is actually use this sphere to cut it out. So I'm going to move this sphere intersecting with it, and I'm going to be using one of these spheres to cut the other one. So we're going to select our first sphere, and then we're going to select the second one, and now we're going to go to Boolean, which we can see right underneath Group Objects, and I'm going to right mouse click so we can see all the different Boolean options. We have Boolean Difference, Boolean Union, and Boolean Intersection. If we go ahead and select Boolean Difference, what you'll see is that the second object that we selected became the cutting plane, or the cutting object, and we've cut out of our first object using this other sphere. So I can go ahead and even edit the sphere now and edit that cut, which we can see actually in our thumbnail preview, but not in the full view. So we'll go ahead and render that really quick. I'll set this to Final, Render to Screen, and then 640 by 480, and click Render, so we can take a look and see how it actually cuts it out. And now we can see we have a very, very nice cut around where this sphere is cutting out of this other object. And because our anti-aliasing settings are rather low right now, we actually have a little bit of a rigid line. But if we were to render with higher settings, we would actually see a very, very crisp line along this cut. Now there's a couple of other ones we can do too. I'm going to select our difference object now in the layers, because now it's called difference, these two spheres together, and I'm going to ungroup them, which is going to get rid of the Boolean settings that we had set, and I'm going to reselect them and do a different type of Boolean, and we're going to do a Boolean union this time. Now what this is going to do is actually just put these objects together and just join them so they're one. The easiest way to really see that is if we change our material. So I'm going to set this union to a different material. Actually, I'll just go ahead and load one in, and we're going to use, let's use glasses. We're going to select, let's do heavy glass, and click OK. And now we can see that we don't actually see the actual, or the other objects penetrating each other with this union on, because what they're doing is they're joining, and it's cutting out this center section, so exactly where they intersect does not exist. And if I go ahead and actually undo that, which I'll just ungroup, we'll see that little bit show up inside of there, and we'll actually be able to see the sphere inside the other sphere. As you can see by looking on the side over here, we can actually see the other end of the sphere actually coming out. But if we go ahead and union them together, there's this big open cavern in the inside now, and it's all just one object. And then our last one, what it'll give us is the reverse of this effect. So I'll just go ahead and ungroup these objects, and now we're going to select to do a different union, or a different Boolean, and then we're going to do Boolean intersection. And now what we have is all the pieces that intersect of this Boolean are the pieces that show up. So the rest of the spheres are not showing up now, just that middle section where they're intersecting. I'll just go ahead and render that. And we can see we have a very interesting shape here where we have just these ends of our spheres connecting, and we get a very neat looking glass object right here. And we could, of course, change that to any shape we want or any surface. Let's just go ahead and actually load in a different surface for that. We'll go to Rocks and select Default so we can see it just a little bit better. Also want to make sure we're selecting them so that we can move around them more correctly with the camera. And now we can see we have more of sort of a football shape object or material. So it looks just a little bit different. But we can see a little more clearly now exactly what's going on within the intersection. And I'll just go ahead and render that again so we can see it with a different surface. And we can see the edges a little bit better of this intersection. And of course, like I said, we can do this with any object. It's just one of the really cool tools within View to be able to do these booleans on all different sorts of objects to create shapes that you can't normally create just by using standard objects. So there's a lot we can do with them. Just play around with the 3 different settings depending on what you're modeling, and then you can make lots of different really cool stuff in View.